Every championship has a story, and we are here to tell them all. The Championship Summer Series on San Diego Soccer's social media continues with our second panel. It's 2010-2011, the year the Sockers went back-to-back. Welcome back inside the Calafino Sublimit Lounge. My name is Kraig Elsten, and I am so thrilled to be joined by this all-star panel of OG Sockers and one guy who came in year two and has been part of the greatness of the San Diego Sockers ever since. We are here to talk about the 2010-2011 PASL Professional season and regular season, the U.S. Open Cup Championship, and the Sockers going back-to-back and beginning the 48-game win streak that would define the franchise. Joining us tonight, really, none of these guys need any introduction. If you're a Sockers fan, you know all of them. These are the legends of Sockers 3. To my immediate left and to the right on the screen is the three-time MVP, the all-time leading scorer, Kraig Chiles. And to his left and your camera right is a man who is a PASL MVP in his own right, the great Brian Farber. Brian was a late season or mid-season acquisition in 2010-11, and we'll talk all about that. To Brian's left and your camera right is the Iron Man. It's Anthony Medina, M5. What's up, Tino? It is great to have you here. And then rounding out our panel, the stalwart defender who was a part of each of the first four championships for the San Diego Sockers, number 18, Scotty Martin. Scotty, welcome back, my friend. All right, we are all here. We're talking 2010-11. If you missed it, we began this series 2 weeks ago with the championships 2009-10, talking to Cheeky Luna, talking to Paul Wright, Nate Hetherington, Diego Rivera. So check out that podcast if you're listening on audio, or check out the video if you're watching us on YouTube on our San Diego Sockers channel. Also, for everyone who is here very early on, please do us the favor, hit that like button. Go ahead and hit subscribe if you have not. Hit the bell to get notifications for every upcoming San Diego Sockers video as we head into the 2022-2023 season looking for a three-peat. But let's get started talking about 2010-2011. And Kraig, I'm going to start with you here. This club in the preseason, you were there as a rookie in 2009-10, and 28 goals, got things started. But 2010-11, your second year, but also a change up front. I feel like the club kind of was putting itself together on the fly that first season. Second season, a big change. Hiring John Quintero to be the general manager, hiring Joe Totino in the marketing department, myself, Aaron Susi as well, like kind of creating a front office. Was that something that was of comfort to the players coming back for year two?
Yeah, I think so. John and Joe really helped legitimize this club in that very beginning and added their footprint to what was happening. And so as a player, I think it just gave you comfort that the organization was going to be around for the long haul and was going to try to do things right and compete for a championship each and every year. And players from outside our organization took note of that as well. And it helped really draw the best talent into our club and make us as competitive as possible.
How important was it for you learning the indoor game that first season? And we're using that to set the stage for 2010. Having guys like Paul Wright and Aaron Susi who were professionals in indoor for so long, how important was it to have those guys to learn from?
Yeah, obviously those were extremely valuable educational years as a player, and you watch them and you see their tendencies at training and how they operate during the games, and you learn a lot from those players. But truthfully, growing up, I played indoor soccer locally at North County Soccer Park. So the angles and the boards was something that I was relatively familiar with. Substitution pattern and the free kicks and set pieces and those little nuances, they took a lot of time to figure out. And so, I think I transitioned a little easier because I had the angles and the boards background from growing up. But Susie and Paul and Sean and Braden, Riley Swift, all those guys were super experienced and brought a lot to the table. And we all did our best to absorb a lot of information from them.
Now, Dino, you were, of course, also learning the indoor game as well. But as we kind of look at how that team was built, 2010-11 specifically, a couple of first-year veterans that were part of the leadership core in 09-10 were gone. Sean Bowers retired. Nate Hetherington had a knee injury. He wasn't going to be available until, I think, the very, very end of that season. The club went out and got Miguel Adorado to play the midfield and got John Krause to play in the back. And I'm going to ask Scotty more about Krause. But for yourself with Miguel, how important of an addition was that to the 2010-11 club?
Yeah, I think at that point we were still looking for some continuity with, veteran players and, some of us outdoor transitioning to indoor, looking for, guys that had played, a few years in the professional indoor league. So I think that was important just to kind of have that support along the way. And so additions like that coming from other teams was really, I think, really influential as we were still, riding that first year success. It was really helpful in supporting that role as we did have a few injuries. So I think it was really important adding some veteran players like that.
And Scotty, that first year club was known for its offensive prowess. For a team, a bunch of goal scorers, bringing in even a rookie like Kraig, but, veterans who knew how to score. That second year, though, it felt like the Sockers started to learn how to play defense. And for yourself, a guy like Dan Antoniuk who came back, and then bringing in a John Krause, what was that second year like in terms of figuring out how to play through the back?
Kind of became pretty easy with a vet like Riley back there telling us what to do. And then, I don't know, everyone just seemed to work really hard for each other. So we would try to communicate up front and then kind of pick everything up behind them and get the ball to our goal scorers when we had the chance.
One of the things that is going to be fun when you watch some of these highlights for everyone who is watching on our YouTube video is that 2010-11 not only was the second championship for the Sockers, it was the rookie year for two guys who are still a huge part of the Major Arena Soccer League, two of the best players in the Major Arena Soccer League. I'm referring to Nick Pereira, of course, of the Tacoma Stars now. Chris Toth, who was a longtime Sockers goalie, a three-time San Diego Sockers championship goalie, and now is, of course, with the Ontario Fury, previously with the Tacoma Stars as well. Kraig, what were those young guns like integrating into the team? You were still a very young player yourself, but Pereira, Toth, extremely raw coming in. We knew Chris for being Zoli's kid, essentially. Pereira came in, and we were like, who's this big guy who can really handle the ball? But what do you think what was the importance for the year of having those young guns on the team?
No, honestly, we could see their talent from the beginning. And I had known Nick through college and when he was at Santa Barbara, and I was at San Diego State, and we would train sometimes in the summer, and we knew how technical he was, and we knew what a frame he had on him and the ability to run and flexibility. Nick was a great target from the beginning. And, he just got stuck in a tough place, behind me and Susie a little bit. And if it wasn't for either one of us, he may have grabbed one of those positions super early and may still be in this club. And so we knew Nick was a big talent, and Milwaukee found that out, later on that year in a futsal ID camp that we did together. And, Chris Toth was a machine. I think he may have been the only one who came directly out of high school. A lot of us, if not all of us, had collegiate experience, which is, similar to the pros, and it teaches you a lot about the game. And Chris was a fresh out of high school kid, and Riley Swift was intimidating and no joke. And Chris, in the same light, he has a lot of Riley's tendencies. It's like a mixture between old school and new school personalities. And so Chris and Nick were both valuable to the team at that time, and we knew that they would have long-term futures in the game. And if it wasn't for us, it would be with other franchises.
Now, I haven't ignored Brian Farber for any reason other than we're adding him into the story right now. At this point in the preseason, Brian Farber not signed by any club in the PASL-Pro. He was a free agent. You were a floating radical out there in the soccer landscape. Brian, what was happening for you summer, fall, into the winter of 2010 at that time?
So I was going into my second year with Portland. playing outdoor. I was going to put my focus on the outdoor season and took the indoor season off completely. And then a little bit of unfortunate luck. I was in a pretty bad car accident, and so it kind of messed up my back, my hamstrings, still to this day, obviously. But that was like that was rough because I was going into the Portland season like this is where I'm going to be, and I always kind of knew that I could go back to the Cougars, but I just wasn't my plan. I had seen the Sockers doing their thing. They won that championship the year before. They picked up a couple of my former teammates, and they were like charged to win it again. And Susie down here was kind of like telling me the whole time, like, yo, you should come. You should come. I'm like, well, I can't even put a pair of socks on my feet right now. So I'm gonna be chilling for a couple months. But then he pushed and pushed. And actually, when I came down here, it was the first time I practiced in 6 months after the car accident. I was still kind of on workers' comp, actually, so don't tell anybody. Cut that out.
Statute of limitations.
I think we're okay. I think we're okay. So I snuck down here essentially during the weekend and had my first session with the team and my first game.
So Farber not in the picture until we get a little bit later in the story of 2010-11, but he was out there. He was rehabbing. He was an outdoor star. Injury and malaise. I mean,
I wasn't a fan of these guys at the time.
No. I mean, the last time we had seen you was playing against us, the previous season where the Cougars were the number one rival of the San Diego Sockers and were intended to face one another in the playoffs. But you guys lost in the semifinals that year.
Yeah, we were defeated. Actually, we were kind of caught off guard in that game. But it was funny. The year before that in Portland, I had a teammate, Keith Savage, who was boys with Kraig from the Chivas days. And I was coming back down for indoor season, and he was like, oh, dude, I got a friend who's playing indoor now. He's with the Sockers. They're coming back. And I was like, yeah, I know that. And he goes, yeah, you got to watch him. He can score from anywhere. And I'm like, all right. And I was like defending MVP at the time, so I was like, he's got to watch for me too, bro. Like, easy, Keith. And then we were playing each other in the first year before they were even like officially a team in the league. And Kraig had the ball on the sidelines. This is the first interaction with Chiles for me. And the ball's on the boards. Do you remember this goal?
I do. It was low shot.
It was doesn't even make sense.
It was my first goal of 150 on Chewy.
We're not counting Chewy. We're not counting. But the ball is on Kraig's, on the boards. It's stuck on the boards on the far side of the bench. And I'm on the bench. I'm just watching. I'm like, I knew who Keith had mentioned, and I knew to watch out for Kraig. And I was still kind of wondering why he's wearing 37 as a number. But he has the ball on the edge. It didn't even make sense. It was stuck to the boards. And he's almost like a toe poke. It was like he just quick hit. You know how he quick release on the ground from 30 yards out and catches Chewy and sneaks it into the post. And it was like, I watched the shot and I'm like, he's got that. I actually started like looking for our forwards making a run, and I look back and it's in the goal. And I'm like, oh, well, there you go. I guess Keith wasn't wrong. And obviously we know the stats don't lie. He wasn't wrong.
So the San Diego Sockers were coming together as a team on and off the field. As we mentioned at the very start, with a new front office, there was a new opportunity to try and capture the imagination of San Diego sports fans. And the Sockers held a media day at Seau's the Restaurant, which is a place that certainly evokes a memory. If you are a San Diegan, if you were around during the career of Junior Seau, if you're ever down in Mission Valley, you knew what a hot spot that was for Chargers games and really for sports in general. And the Sockers got a great crowd at Seau's for Media Day. Let's present, let's go back in the time machine. Let's go in the Wayback Machine for a very young me and a very young Anthony Medina at one of the bar high tops at Seau's the Restaurant for this preseason interview. Sockers Media Day here at Seau's the Restaurant as the Sockers get ready to go for the repeat of the PASL-Pro and earn their 12th major indoor title. And we're here visiting with Sockers forward and midfielder Anthony Medina. Anthony, I know it's like the old classic report, what did you do for your summer vacation, right? But how did your offseason go? What did you do?
It was great. Got a little bit of recovery and rest in. Took a trip back to Europe to visit my sister and her family out there. and so it was great. Got back a couple weeks ago, so trying to get back in the swing of things and getting ready for the season.
Now, Anthony's such a physical player. What do you need to do in the off season, and what's your preseason like in terms of getting into game shape?
Well, for me at this point, I think indoor takes its toll on your body. So for me, I think doing a lot of preventative stuff, helped me last season. I think last season I didn't miss a game, which was, I kind of expected to, pick up some few injuries here and there and some knocks. But luckily, I think I was prepared for the season and was able to, make it through the length of the season without missing a game. So I'm following the same kind of training that I did last season, and that's a preventative type program, just making sure that I'm flexible and my legs ready to go. So.
Now, Anthony, I know you knew a lot of the guys were going to be coming back to this year's team, but there were some guys that there were questions about, and I think on the top of that list was Paul Wright. We all saw him out in the field after he had a goal and 4 assists in the championship game. He said it might be his last game, didn't come with us to the Louisville Open Cup, so then we said maybe it really is Paul Wright's last game. How excited were you guys in the team when you heard that P3 was back in the fold for this year?
It was pretty exciting. I mean, I think, as you said, at the end of last year, he went out with, on top, and so I said, he's probably going to hang him up. But, in the back of my mind, Paul's a competitor. I think he, as long as his body holds up and he feels good, he'll continue to keep playing and contribute and be a leader on the team. So, I'm not surprised, that he's back. In the back of my mind, I said, if he can still run and, feels good and I was pretty sure that nothing would change. He'd be back out there. So it was a pleasant surprise.
Now I got to ask you, it's the classic question, but any team that wins a championship, one of the things you worry about is complacency, that you're not going to give it the same all it took to win that championship the second time around. Is that something you guys are worried about, knowing that the PASL is going to be an even tougher challenge this year?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think that's going to be the biggest challenge, from last year, because last year was, we had a good mix of guys, new guys, veterans, guys just, learning the indoor game. So there was that, that drive that we wanted to prove ourselves on the indoor stage, and as we did, it turned out pretty successful. And this year, like you said, it's going to be difficult to stay focused, because teams will be, looking to knock us off and say they beat the champs and etc. So, I think that'll be important in our success this year is, just knowing that and using our experiences from last year to keep us on top.
Well, Anthony, great to catch up with you as always. Looking forward to the season. Of course, the season opener at Stockton on the 14th, exclusively here live on 619sports.net. And then the home opener, Tacoma Stars, new team, we haven't seen them yet. November 20th, that'll be live here and then on Channel 4 SD, but we hope to see you at the Del Mar Arena cheering on this man, Anthony Medina, to score a few goals this year. Anthony, thanks for the time, buddy.
All right, thanks, Kraig.
Anthony, make sure you grab the microphone over there. I got to come to you after we just watched the two of us, very, very much younger and fitter and excited. How did you feel you did in that interview?
Well, considering I interviewed for a job at Sayhouse and didn't get it, that was an interesting interview. But I remember the excitement of being at Sayhouse and just really, really excited about what we were doing in San Diego and just trying to keep the momentum going from the previous year. So that was just an exciting time for me, and I know for the whole organization. And we were kind of doing it not on the fly, but trying to plant roots here and just riding the momentum that we all worked so hard to establish here. So that was kind of our, I don't know, personally, that was our goal initially, and I thought we did a great job of doing that from the early years of our third generation here.
Scotty, when I think about the preseason for this year, for this season, for 2010-2011, there was a new team, Tacoma Stars. This was the first year that Tacoma Stars came back. Greg Howes, we knew, was going to be the player, head coach, a great player with MISL pedigree. They were bringing in players from the area. Going into the season, who were the Sockers thinking? Was it Cougars? Was it Stars? Who do they think was going to be the primary opponent?
Well, I think we always knew that the Cougars would give us a good game, whether they were as talented or not, just because of the amount of times we had played them, kind of knocking them off the perch, if you will. They want to get it back. And then as far as Tacoma goes, we were also new, that people would throw around names like Greg Howes and stuff, and I don't know, we were probably pretty confident, cocky back then, where it was like, that guy's not going to do anything when he plays us. It's fine. No big deal. We're going to roll him.
Exactly. It's good, it's sometimes not to know how good a player is when you're taking them on, and then you'll feel very confident. Well, let's hear what Scotty had to say all the way back at the start of the 2010-11 season when I interviewed him on 619sports.net.
We're talking with San Diego Sockers defender Scotty Martin here, halftime on 619sports.net. Scotty, great picture of you up on the Sockers Facebook page as a kid visiting with one Phil Salvaggio, Sockers goalie. It's a great link to the past and the story of this franchise. Tell me what it was like as a kid being a San Diego Sockers fan.
Oh, I mean, it was great. I think one of the first times we went, my little AYSO team actually got to play on the sports arena field before the game. I was like 4 or 5 years old. I think of the green soccer machines. And so we played. I think back then might have been a little less interested in the actual soccer and more interested at just messing around in the stands. But watched them all the way through until they went on their little hiatus. But just always remember all those great players back in the day. So exciting to watch, and then to be able to be a junior soccer and then kind of grow up and make the team was pretty exciting.
Tell the fans who may not be aware of these years that intervened between the last version of the Sockers and now, because there really has been a groundswell for you guys to work together through the Fusion program and what is really a core group of guys, so that when you came back as a unit.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it was, just there's not a lot of, I guess, professional or like amateur / Division II type of, so call it USL 1. So, you have the MLS teams, the Galaxy and the Chivas up there. But some guys don't want to, travel around, go to Minnesota, go to New York. I guess you call it chasing the dream. So kind of a lot of us San Diego kids kind of settled here, started playing amateur together, and then, they brought back the Sockers, and, a bunch of us were lucky enough to make the team and win a championship, which was, great. I'm glad we could bring it back to San Diego.
Scotty, I actually want to follow up on a question I asked you 12 years ago. But San Diego Fusion, that was the program, and of course Alex Monar, very important there as well. But how important was that to the formation of the Sockers at that time?
Well, it probably made it a little easier to form a team because we were all already playing together. We knew each other. I think it really mattered in the beginning that we cared about each other and were friends. So there was never really any finger pointing back then in the early teams. It was more like, I got your back. Don't worry about it. You get me next time. We're all in this together, because we were learning it together while, also just having an awesome time and winning, which always helps, right? Once you're winning, everything seems like it's all going well. Everybody's happy. But yeah, I think it helped a lot that we played together before it all came back in this third iteration.
As we rolled into the regular season for the San Diego Sockers in 2010-2011, the team started on the road, got a solid victory at California, came home, defeated Tacoma in the first meeting between those two teams by an 8-6 score, just beginning the decade of domination between the San Diego Sockers and the Tacoma Stars. Game 3, a chance for the California Cougars to come to Del Mar Arena. Let's bring you some of the highlights from that one.
Yep, Sutton down and out. That could have been a handball, really, off the goal. And Jesus Molina absolutely devastated. 3 straight goals to capture a 7-4 lead as Hanser tries to feed Shear on the short boards. Loose ball in the box. Owen's there, and look at Riley Swift. Crab walking and crawling his way. Anything he needs to make a save.
Yeah, again, they're sacrificing. Paul is helping out. The opposition is on it. And Riley, as you said, crab walking all the way. I mean, that shows you what a great goalie he is.
And here it is. Cheeky Luna will take it. 5 seconds to beat Molino one-on-one. When Kiedapana blows his whistle, there's the whistle. Cheeky steps out. He moves, he shoots and scores! Between the legs! 5-hole goal! Cheeky Luna!
I went at Molina. I was actually expecting him to dive early or go down when I faked a shot or two. And he did a great job staying up. And, once he stood up, I got close enough to where I could just pass it. Actually, I was trying to pass it around him, and he opened up his leg, went right through the leg. But, I got the goal, which is what counted for the team.
Luna's shootout goal makes it an 8-4 Sockers lead. Oh, Antoniuk had the golden chance, but instead, the power play over. Sockers 2 for 6 on the power play tonight, and it's 8-4. The clock ticking down. Krause in the corner, sharp angled shot off the boards. It bounds back to the yellow line. Medina will walk it back out to Riley Swift. The 7th man standing and cheering. The Sockers are going to go to 3-0. They'll remain unbeaten all time at home. There's the final horn sounding. And time for handshakes as the Sockers defeat the Cougars 8-4. They improve to 3-0 in the PASL-Pro while the Cougars fall to 0-3 on the year.
All right, so Sockers out to a 3-0 start, but Kraig, what was it like playing at Del Mar Arena, where it got really cold about the third quarter? But it seemed I watched back to these highlights, and there was such a festive atmosphere there.
Yeah, I don't think we ever lost a game there.
We didn't.
So it's only good memories. Some of the memories that immediately pop into my head are walking through the sludge and the mud to get back to our shower in our locker room that was about a half a mile down the dirt, right?
That's
and
right.
It would rain in your car. You'd have to drive back there, and it would be total horse manure and mud. But, we relished it. We knew that was a home field advantage to us a little bit, and the atmosphere was great. The 7th man literally were all employed by Phil at the time, and we knew them very well, and we knew that they had our back if anything popped off in that place. And we loved it. Honestly, and that was part of when Coach Quintero came in. He made it clear that, he had ambitions to move the franchise back to the sports arena. I don't remember if it was in his first year, second or third year. But I remember thinking God, that's crazy because we're so dominant here that why would we move? We haven't lost a single game. And so I have fond memories of Del Mar. It was, great atmosphere. It was cold in there and it was wet in there at times. And it was just something that we relished as players, and it was our advantage.
Absolutely. And, of course, another part, Anthony, of the early season, and we're about to go see it, was that Revolucion Tijuana was part of the field that year. They weren't eligible to make the PASL playoffs, but they were one of your regular opponents, and that would mean going down to Estadio Ferrati, right past the border, open air, small field, small goals, in absolute insanity. I know because I was there, but for everyone who's watching, what was it like going down to Tijuana and playing at Ferrati?
It was just always an experience that you just could never, you didn't know what was going to happen, but anticipation was, I would build up going down there. The boards were always funky. Just from the locker room pregame, it was just always a different experience. But I think with our group that we had, we did so well in adverse situations. It was just another game that we could all come together and just have a good experience and come together and try and get a result. And whether that be at home, TJ or whatever, we just would come together and try and get a result. But playing down there was always a challenge for sure. Whether making sure that our stuff was just the locker room setup was just different. From your normal a pregame setup. So, but it was fun. It was always a lively atmosphere on the field. There was always challenges that you'd have to overcome, whether it's the turf, playing surface, referee, crowd. The lighting was always, dimmer than we're used to, and so just a unique set of challenges. But I think we always look for it as a challenge to get a result, and then go enjoy some tacos after, and have a few beers and make our way back.
One of the things that was true then and is true to this day is that the Sockers were unable to field the same lineup in Mexico that they would field in the United States. Now, it's for different reasons these days. It's usually a visa situation, but especially at the start of that season, Paul Wright, Radley Swift, they wouldn't travel to Tijuana. They wouldn't go. They would not go. And so the Sockers would wind up playing a somewhat rotated lineup when they would go down to Ferrari. The very next game was an overtime thriller that I think really helped set the tone for the 2010-2011 club. Some highlights from the Sockers at Ferrari against Revolucion Tijuana.
Post, he would have had his second goal of the game. Now trying to spring Medina. Top of the circle. Here's Medina. Moves to the left foot. Out comes Medina. Sharp angle goal! Anthony Medina! Bombs it in. The Sockers take a 2-1 lead at the 4:56 mark. Free kick from the left wing. The left-footed striker, Aaron Susi, along with Luna makes the run. Susi will take the kick. Aaron Susi scores! Off the free kick, Aaron Susi! Bombs it home, and the Sockers are back on top. Only a two-man wall for Cheeky Luna and Aaron Susi to attack, and Chiles is there lurking. Susi will step up. Susi taps it. Chiles shoots and scores! He scores! Kraig Chiles! His second goal of the game from Susi. 12:54 the time of the goal. Power play goal, Chiles. Forward it comes into the attacking midfield. Moreno makes a run in space. Moreno straightaway save! Toth, what a point-blank straightaway save! Great save, Chris Toth, to keep it a 5-5 game. Midfield. Krause. Crossing pass intercepted on use. Counter-attack 2-on-1. Here they come with Jimenez on left wing. Jimenez shoots. Saved by Chris Toth. Toth comes up with a save with 30 seconds to play. On right wing, Rivas with 7 seconds. And now 6. Rivas shoots. Save Toth. Save Toth. With 2 seconds. Plays it on 1 point right for him. He stops. Plays it. Short corner. And a goal. A goal. Anthony Medina. Sockers win. Sockers win. Anthony Medina. Golazo. The golden goal. Sockers win it 6-5.
An exciting one down in Tijuana, but we already heard Dino talk about some of the challenges. Scotty, you were just talking while we were in pause for a second. The refereeing down in Tijuana would have its own special flavor, wouldn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. You felt like maybe, I don't know, was it their uncle or cousin that was running the ref show? I remember one match with my now good buddy, Eddie Velez, who's on the team. We're kind of bumping, and he just comes back and crushes me with an elbow in the face. The ref is looking right at me, and he just kind of shrugs his shoulders. And I look back at him and like, wait, what? And I mean, that's kind of how the games went down there. They would dive, get a call. We would get crushed, no call. So I think that's like some of the adversity Medina was referring to was kind of like, I mean, you go down there knowing that you're not getting a call. And to still come out with a win, especially a close win like that highlight showed, was always, it felt a little extra special because of all the adversity you had to go through.
Brian, you got your own story there too, right?
Well, I wasn't even going to talk about that. I was going to say that that moment that Scotty's talking about is actually Scotty had to give approval for Eddie to join this team years later because of that incident. Like Scotty was like, had to sign off. Phil was like, I'm not signing Eddie until.
No, Scotty got a free look.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Krause did too, right?
Get even. But that incident was not forgot, and maybe the refs missed it, but Scotty hadn't forgotten.
Yeah, I got a couple good practice licks in. It was more than one.
The Sockers went on the road, continued on the road from that game. By the way, one other thing that happened in that game that was very important for the 2010-11 season, Cheeky Luna took a really bad sprained ankle in that game, that 5-4 or 6-5 win in overtime. He crossed on crutches. I went back through my old 619 Sports game stories and read through that. And Cheeky was held to 9 games in the regular season that year. He missed basically the next month because of the sprained ankle that he took in that game, including the next road trip for the San Diego Sockers. Club went to Louisville, built out a 10-2 lead and coasted to a 10-7 victory, and then went to Cincinnati in the snow and lost 5-4. And it was interesting, Craig, going back through the game story, that game, Craig Rodas, who wound up being an assistant coach for us for the WMF World Cup in Australia in 2019. He was the head coach of Cincinnati and started an extra field player that game. They started 15 against our 14, and the Sockers tried to reverse that outcome after the fact and failed with PASL Commissioner Kevin Milliken.
That's funny. I don't remember that. What I remember Anthony Medina having a flip recorder phone on that trip. And maybe it could have been a different trip to Cincinnati. It was a flip cam pre-phones. But, no, that's funny. Cincinnati had a good team at the time with Jeff Hughes and Henderson and some of those guys. And so we were excited to go out there. That game at Mockingbird, too, was the first time we met Chad Haggerty, and we played in, Mockingbird Arena, which became a 10-year joke, I think, moving forward. So that was a fun road trip for us.
But it did include the first loss of the season, and then,
maybe not.
Gentlemen, December 28th, 2010. And this is a date that I had committed to memory even years before, because it was a trip to Stockton, the Stockton Arena. The Sockers had a 4-0 lead over the Stockton Cougars. The Cougars came roaring back, essentially played sixth attacker the entire second half, wound up coming back to win 9-8 in overtime. And Dino, there's a reason that game is relevant. First off, the club fell to 6-2 at that point. It was the halfway point of the 16-game regular season, so there was some concern. Were the Sockers the best team in the league or not? It was the first time that year you had lost to California. But the reason that game is important is that's the loss. 48 straight wins would follow for the San Diego Sockers. That was the last time the team lost a game until January of 2013. Do you remember the bus ride home from Stockton after a 9-8 loss, blowing a 4-0 lead to the hated Cougars?
I think we try to erase that one from the memory, but going back, I think it was all a feeling that we didn't want to encounter again the rest of the that season. So it was not a very pleasant ride back. Very subdued, and we had some early success that year. So that loss really hit home for us, and I think it was a turning point, which fast forwarding proved to be a significant loss to put us on the path to going on that 48-game win streak. So, yeah.
Well, what happened directly after that game was that a contract was extended to one Brian Farber, who had to come in wearing number 77 because 7 was taken by Nate Hetherington. But Brian Farber signed a 1-year contract the week after that loss to the California Cougars. Brian, what was the process like to get you on board?
It was easy. Susie called me and was like, yo, we need you in San Diego. We have some injuries, and we just had 2 losses in a row. Get down here. And I was like, dude, I can't. I'm still hurt. And he's like, come on. And I'm like, well, actually, I'm about to come back to training this week. I don't know. It's iffy. He's like, the game is like this weekend. just come down. And I talked to my wife at the time, and I was like, what do you think? She's like, it's iffy, but if nobody knows. And I was like, all right, well, I'll just stay off the score sheet and cruise down there. And so I came in, I landed, I met John at the hotel, I signed the contract, dropped my bags off, went to the arena, and first practice, I got taped by Savage because my ankle doesn't work without tape. And I walked down the field, and the guys were like in a big group, and I'm like, oh, this is awkward because I'm by myself, and I'm like jogging back and forth, like trying to warm up, and I see everybody looking at me going, what is he doing here? And and then I came over, and it was actually a cool session, pretty warm invitation from the guys, and it was like, I'm here to help. Like, I heard you guys had injuries, like, let's do it. And then it was like, all right, cool. And then the next day we whooped California's ass.
So technically the streak, the 48-game winning streak, the longest streak of wins for a professional sports team in United States team sports history, began in somewhat humble fashion. It began with a victory over the Fusion, the San Diego Fusion, which was the soccer's reserve team, essentially, at that time. This was part of the U.S. Open Cup, which was just like what the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup, an ability for semi-pro teams to play against PASL-Pro teams. At that time, the MISL was not involved, unfortunately, for that tournament. However, the very next game was January 8th, 2011, the Cincinnati Kings, the team that was the PASL-Pro Eastern favorite, coming to San Diego, the team that had beaten the Sockers at the Cincinnati Arena at the Gardens earlier. Highlights from Brian Farber's first game and the Sockers' second win of 48 in a row. So the Sockers beat the Kings 10-4. And right after the game, I had the chance for the first time in my career to interview Brian Farber. What I didn't know is that this would be one of my favorite clips of 619 Sports.
Post-game, talking with Brian Farber as the San Diego Sockers defeat the Cincinnati Kings 10-4. Brian, obviously you're a very well-known name here in the PASL-Pro, playing with the San Diego Sockers for the first time tonight, and a goal and 2 assists in your debut. Tell me all about it. Oh, Dan Antoniuk in for the.
You part of that?
I got that. Yeah. No, I was not part of it. I did not. I was unaware. I swear to God, Brian. There was good placement, though. I gotta admit, they did that all on their own. Was it shaving cream or was it whipped cream?
It was whipped cream. It's delicious.
Okay, so that's pretty good then.
It's in my eye, though.
It stings a lot worse than shaving cream.
Do you really want to know the answer to the question?
Well, the question is just how did it feel to integrate with this group of guys?
It was great. This group of guys is awesome. They took me in right away, and it made me feel at home, and that's what made me play with a little bit of confidence tonight, and we got the win, and that's important, so good for me and great for the team, and it's good to be here.
Obviously, you've been rehabbing that hamstring injury that kept you out throughout the winter. Talk about, as Doc Savage gives you the wipe down here, the very appropriate wipe down, talk about just your battle to get back from injury and to get to full fitness.
Thank you. The battle has been long. I tore it, and then I got cleared just recently, so it's been a long couple of months, 8 months almost total with all the pain. But tonight was the first time I played, and it felt good. I'm going to go ice it right now and make sure that I don't get any aftershock or anything. But it felt great all night. It didn't tighten up, so it's a good sign.
Tell Sockers fans how you wound up wearing their uniform tonight, the process to get you signed with San Diego.
The process was short. Aaron was talking to me. Aaron Susie's been talking to me all season, trying to tell me to come down here and enjoy the sun. And finally this week they had some injuries. They had somebody out of town. Opportunity came up. They're playing Cincinnati, and they gave me a call, and it happened.
Now I know you'll be playing with the team when they go to Tacoma, right? You'll be up with them on that road trip, and then an opportunity to play with this team in the championship as well. Obviously, you know the ins and outs of this league. How about jumping on with the first place team?
It's fantastic. You know, if you want to join a team, this is the team to join, and I'm glad I'm here. So it's hopefully things just keep getting better.
And Brian, just tell the folks, I mean, we got to see your speed, your versatility, your creativity. What are the things you're trying to bring to this side?
I mean, just that. I pride myself on my fitness and my defense on the whole game and not giving up on any plays. And I didn't really do that tonight. I didn't give up anything, so that was good. Offensively, I'll buzz around the goal and see what I can make happen. I was fortunate, to get the goal early, get the monkey off the back, and then link up a couple of good passes. They were good finishes. They were just simple passes, so they did the hard work.
Well, Brian, 3 points in your debut, and we're all happy to see you wearing Sockers white. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So after acquiring Brian Farber, the San Diego Sockers went on a roll that we know would last for 3 years. But from 6-2, San Diego finished the regular season 14-2. The club took care of every U.S. Open Cup match that was in the way and headed to Cincinnati and the classic Cincinnati Gardens, the home of the Big O, Oscar Robertson back in the 50s, and went there with an attempt to win back-to-back PASL-Pro championships. For the second straight year, it would be a 6-team tournament format played over 3 consecutive days, involving a team from Canada, the best teams from the PASL, and the 2 best teams from Liga Mexicana Fútbol Rápido down in Mexico. The team from Mexico City and the team from Guadalajara each won their opening round games, setting up a semifinal that would pit Cincinnati against Guadalajara, and it would pit the Sockers against the PPM Sidekicks of Mexico City. And Kraig, I wonder if you even remember some of the details around this game, because years later, the players that the Sockers would face this weekend and the previous weekend would be the key antagonists, the players that would stand in the way of you guys in a championship. Thinking of guys like Miguel Vaca and Omar Santillan, and in the semifinals, Janoni Martinez, on that team, Chili Farias, a former Socker in his own rights. But going into the semifinals, and I looked this stuff up on my old website, 619sports.net. The Sockers weren't exactly at full strength. Riley Swift was on the East Coast for a firefighter training that would keep him out of the semifinal. And the week of the semifinal, Dan Antoniuk got an opportunity to do a tryout with the MLS club FC Dallas, and it was an exhibition preseason situation, but he was given an opportunity and he said, I'm taking it. And he left you guys and sent you into a semifinal with kind of a very untested Eric Wonderly and a very untested Chris Toth, who at that point was 3-0, but really had not played very well in the regular season. Had given up 9 goals in a U.S. Open Cup win in Las Vegas. Was there a little bit of concern going into that semifinal game against Janoni and Chile and the PPM Sidekicks?
Honestly, not that I can remember. I remember Chile being in the game, and I remember Janoni and maybe watching him the night before and thinking like, oh, this is a legitimate team that's going to give us a good test. But, at that moment, we were super confident as a group, and we were a really tight-knit group. And, I don't think we had a sliver of doubt walking into that semi-zor final that we weren't going to walk out of there with the trophy. And maybe that's just myself personally, but we were really confident. We were a very good group at the time. We were tight-knit, and we were playing a good brand. And, I remember the dizzy moment when he left, and we had a meeting in the hotel room, and it was like, holy cow. That went a different direction than we thought, but But he went and did his thing, and no one in the franchise is more important than the team, and everybody just kind of stepped up and moved on. And so I remember that being a low-scoring, tight game in the semis, and then we opened up the floodgates a little bit in the final there.
Anthony, you had 2 goals and an assist in the semifinal. It was a 7-3 victory that game over the Sidekicks, and I just wonder, what do you remember from that game?
Yeah, I remember just leading up. We were just all, me personally, and I just felt that we were just excited being kind of an historic venue, and wanted to just take care of business. And I know there were some distractions, and we were dealing with some adversities that, with Riley being gone. But as Kraig mentioned, we were such a tight-knit group, and there wasn't a doubt that we would walk away from that championship tournament, lifting the trophy. And I just remember that, being on the forefront of all of our minds, and mine personally, and just going out there and getting the job done. So,
and Scotty, I wrote down in my notes at the time that this was, quote unquote, the Chris Toth game, because at that point Chris was a complete rookie. He had only started either games in Tijuana or U.S. Open Cup matches. He didn't start any regular season PASL home or road games for the San Diego Sockers the entire year. And then here he is starting the semifinal against a really good team that had beaten Calgary the night before 10-2. And I mean, like, really stomped them. Looked like the best team around. And Chris only allowed 3 goals, threw out a pair of assists in the fourth quarter to help turn 5-3 to 7-3 and get the victory. How impressed were you with a kid who, as it would turn out, would become for the next 10-plus years one of the best goalies in the league?
Yeah, I mean, I think we were all really impressed at the time, but not surprised, maybe. We see him in practice day in, day out, right? And a lot of times we kind of go first team against second team, so we're the ones trying to score on him, and he's not letting us in practice. So I would say not necessarily surprised, but definitely impressed that he could step up at the moment, in the big moment, and get it done for us. Obviously, it was huge, and then would kind of spark the little the goalie debate, I guess, moving forward from there. Like, oh, Chris is this good, Riley's so good too, who's going to play next season? But yeah, obviously it was big time.
Brian, in my notes, and I really relied on going back and reading stuff that I had written 12 years ago about this team for 2010-11, but you had gone on a tryout with the Carolina Railhawks of USL and taken a hamstring that you were struggling to fire in Cincinnati. You remember that?
No, I had gone back to Portland between the Tacoma game, and I got traded from Portland. The rights were sold to Carolina. The coach in Carolina liked me for a long time, and so he picked me up, and I moved. Christy and I moved to Carolina in the middle of this season for us. And so I remember being like, well, what days am I going to do it? I drove from Portland to Raleigh in like 2.5 days. It was crazy. And I got there, and I set up, and Brad Knighton was my roommate in Carolina, and Krause was right across the hall. And then Christy came out a few weeks later. And then for this game, John and I flew in, but the day before, I'd taken a knock before our flight. And I was like, I think I'm still good. I'm not sure, but I didn't have Savage and treatment, so it was a game time decision. It ended up kind of hurting it in warm up.
John Krause, when you say John, the Beast, number 88, had 2 goals in that semifinal victory as well. And Dan Antoniuk's FC Dallas tryout wound up being a little bit sideways, and he was on a plane literally back to Cincinnati that night, along with Riley Swift, for the championship. Meanwhile, in the night game, the game that was supposed to be the marquee game for the PASL, Jeff Hughes and the Cincinnati Kings lost to Guadalajara 11-7. And what was supposed to happen was Cincinnati was supposed to play San Diego in the championship game in front of a big crowd to help continue to build the momentum of the league. This is what had happened the previous year, of course, with San Diego at home hosting and going on to face Guadalajara in the final. However, because Cincinnati had lost, the Sockers would face Guadalajara in front of a crowd of friends and family for the championship game. Before we get to those highlights, though, Kraig, I have one question, because I went through, like I said, my 619 Sports archives, and after the championship, I wrote a long column about the entire weekend. And reading it back reminded me of this story, which I knew was true. The night, it was a 3-game tournament, right? And the first game, you guys had the night off. You had to bye. And so I announced for the PASL and on my website the 2 semifinal wins, and Sidekicks demolishing Calgary 10-2 and Guadalajara beating Tacoma 9-6. A pretty close game. And Phil Salvaggio was there watching the games as well with Ray Taylor. After both the games, we were riding the elevator up in Cincinnati, and he asked me, well, what do you think about what you saw? And I said, well, the Sidekicks, Mexico City, that's the best team I've seen in 2 years. Of course, excluding us, we're the best team, but that's the other best team I've seen. So, wow, this is going to be a real challenge for you guys tomorrow. I think this is going to be the biggest challenge we've seen. And what was told to me afterwards was that leading into the semifinal, Phil Salvaggio told you guys that I had said to him that PPM Sidekicks, Mexico City, was the best team I'd seen in 2 years, including the San Diego Sockers. I had specifically said excluding the San Diego. He said including the San Diego Sockers. And that,
I think we need Phil to clarify this maybe right now.
And that I was, literally, I was your bulletin board material going into the semifinals. Do you remember any of this?
You know what? I totally do. Halfway through the story, I'm thinking, where is he going with this? And then I totally remember that. Honestly, at that point, I think Phil was just trying to pour some fuel onto the fire and get us motivated for that game. And he knew that we were a competitive bunch of players, and that, if we felt slighted or had our back against the wall, that we would figure it out from there. And so that is kind of funny. I do vaguely remember that entire incident and thinking like, oh, well, we'll show this dude who's the best team around. And we ended up getting our chance in the finals the next night.
In my notes, I walked into the locker room after the semifinal, and this guy says to me, oh, who's the best team? And this guy says to me, oh, I thought that we were supposed to lose. And this guy says to me, hang on a second, I thought we were the bad. It's like, and I'm just going like, hey, whatever I can do to help you win, guys. I mean, there's a reason I get rings too, right? Whatever it takes. So the next day, it's the Sockers, it's La Raza de Guadalajara, but many of the very same players who the Sockers and Monterrey Flash would go head-to-head for years and years. Highlights now of San Diego's second PASL championship.
Flourish shot, a kick save, Riley Smith. look I've never seen.
Turns to the right foot. He lost Magell for just a moment. Ball ricochets into the crease, and Medina comes out with it. Anthony Medina lost it to Garcia. Hugo Garcia back to Flores with space. The free shot saved by Swift. Huge right arm save by Riley Swift. Eric Susan, corner kick, far corner. To right. Dummies it to Chiles. He scores! Kraig Chiles, second goal of the game. The championship quarter is underway, and the Sockers protect a 2-goal lead and claim back-to-back PASL North American Championship titles. Shoots, he scores! Hat-trick goal! And Paul Wright! He's doing the 30! As the Sockers lead at 7-4. Break out. They come 3-on-1 right now. Look at the back of the field. He's looking to his left. He's got busy. He's the dagger! Right into the heart of the makes it 8-4. Ladies and gentlemen, the Sox are on a championship roll. There are 4 seconds remaining. Ladies and gentlemen, City of San Diego, it's time to celebrate. Championship number 12, a dirty dozen for the San Diego Sockers. They have won back-to-back PASL North American Championships. 10-6 San Diego, our final score from the Cincinnati Gardens.
That's a $1,000 suit. He doesn't care.
What a day, what a night for the San Diego Sockers. Back-to-back PASL champions, their 12th championship game. And a lot of notes from that game over La Raza de Guadalajara. Kraig, we'll start with you. You had 4 goals in that game on the heels of winning your first PASL MVP. You won the finals MVP as well. What do you remember from that one?
You know, I remember being super proud that we had won a championship on the road. You know, I think we were criticized a little bit, or not criticized, but it was like, oh, well, anyone can win a championship with home field advantage, and especially at Del Mar, we knew that was an advantage. And so I think on that road trip, we were like, okay, this is our opportunity to go beat Cincinnati in Cincinnati, where we had lost earlier that year, and they didn't keep up to their end of the bargain. They didn't get to the final, and from there, I remember it being a very intense game and a lot of emotion and passion. And it's honestly the same game we played in 2020 against Monterey with the same players, and it's the same game we played in 2019 in Sonora against half of the same dudes. And so, it's funny because they might look at it, if we did this interview in 30 years, we'd be like, dang, you had us for 6 to 8 years, but I got you in the first 3 and the last 3 or something like that. And it all balances out. They really limited us in Vegas a couple times. A lot of those same players with Vaca and Santillan and Pichardo and that whole crew. And so some of those guys were in Vegas and took us down. And I remember being super proud that we had won it in Cincinnati, and not at our home facility. And it was a proud moment for us.
Brian, I'm going to actually go to you to talk about Paul Wright in that game, because we talked about it in the previous game. You weren't able to play in this game, and Paul was kind of there as a reserve. There was another player who we'll talk about momentarily, Eric Wonderly, as well, who was kind of on the fence, like if you play, he won't. If you don't play, he will. But I specifically remember that game, and I didn't know Paul as well as I do now, right? But that game in the pregame, in the warm-ups, him being separate from everybody, him having his headphones on, which now would be the AirPods, but it was like the Walkman headphones.
They're Beats.
Right. And him doing like kind of his own thing and just channeling that old school 1991 energy into the club, and he had a goal and an assist in the second quarter, and then he took a kick to the ribs, and he got spat upon in the game. And I think he got spat on after the clip we saw where he did the bird in front of the team. But what was the intensity of that atmosphere?
Well, that's a good example of what Paul's veteran ability was for our team. I was still only like 10 games in, but you knew what he was doing at that moment was distracting and taking off the pressure and putting it on him. He was pissing off the other team. They were so mad at him that, like you said, kicked, spit on, and he got points, and it let Kraig do his thing. Wendy did his thing. Pereira scored a goal, and it allowed us to stay focused on our game instead of get caught up in that rival. It was more like they all wanted to kill Paul, and we got to score goals.
Anthony, Eric Wonderly was a critical part of the San Diego Sockers winning that second championship. He would have his best year as a Socker the following year, but halfway into the 2010-11 season, Wonderly was 100% a backup. He wasn't playing. He had one goal through the first 9-10 games of the season. Injuries to Cheeky Luna, injuries to Brian Farber helped open the door for the Poway High grad, but we saw his speed, his kind of relentlessness, his constant energy. How important was Eric Wonderly to the San Diego Sockers?
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point, and I think, we would all agree that, that those years the team was so competitive, anyone could step in and do the job. And Eric just kind of fell, down the totem pole, just based on the competitiveness and how solid our team was. But, I think it's a tribute to him that he was able to stay focused and step up when the team needed him most and perform. I think that was very critical, and a tribute to Eric that he was able to do that, after being, kind of, put in that backup position throughout the regular season and not getting many minutes, but, to be able to step up and have some critical goals and really step in and fill that void when we needed it most was really a tribute to to Eric and rising to the occasion on that. But I think he had some very critical moments that helped us down the stretch. So it was very important for us.
Wendy was our wild card, right? Like, seriously, that's the perfect word. He could be the man of the match, or he could be like, hey, you're not having the best game today. And he would know it. But if he came with that energy and he had a little swag, and it was more like a confidence thing for him. But when Wendy had confidence, nobody could stop him. And he put it on his left, and he caught people off guard, and then he would wonder bomb it in, and it was the phrase that we would use, and he would smash the ball, and he did his thing. And it was like, oh, Wendy came to play today, and you knew it. I remember actually before that game, I was like, dude, I'm game time decision. I'm trying to run around, trying to sprint. And I realized when we were doing like the last runs before the game, I'm like, I can't go. There's no way I can go. If I do, I'm just going to be out in the first quarter. I know my body well enough. So I was like, hey, Wendy, I'm not going to go, dude. Are you ready? Like, are you ready mentally? Like, you're going to get man of the match. You're going to get man of the match. And I kept telling him, you're going to crush it today. And I don't have no idea if that helped him or not, but he did kill it in the game. He didn't score 4 goals like this guy, so he didn't get man of the match. But he was a big part of the win for us on that moment, and he stepped up when we needed him to do it.
And Scotty, the thing that kept coming back in my notes when the Sockers played Guadalajara, and it's kind of funny because if you look at it, the Sockers beat Guadalajara for 2 championships. The Sockers beat Detroit for 2 championships. Facing the same team in the finals back-to-back years, 2 different times. But that second year, red cards, a player literally doing a pantomime gun to the bench, to our head coach, Phil Salvaggio, as one of the guys who was a physical player and one of the guys who would mix it up down on the floor. What do you remember about that final in terms of when things got chippy between you guys and Guadalajara?
Well, for me, that was always my favorite part when it got chippy. So I was like, yeah, kick me, please. Let me kick you back, or you can hurt yourself kicking me. But it was also a thing where, we had the lead, so you got to be smart. So it was always this aggression that I wanted to get out and give it back to them, while at the same time being smart enough not to get a blue card and letting them get a goal back. Because at the end of the day, we all just want to win the championship and get that ring and tell them, see you next year, guys. So, I guess.
I tried to be on Scotty's team every day in practice just so I didn't get kicked by him. It's not a joke. I literally was like, oh, Scott's in yellow? Like, hey, Phil, give me the yellow.
Z would be on the other.
Yeah, you're screwed either way.
So the Sockers champions in Cincinnati, playing in front of, as you saw in the highlights, almost nobody, but we were doing our best to try and build the fan base back here in San Diego. And it was really encouraging, and we'll show you the highlights of it, to see some fans come out and give the Sockers their due when they return to Lindbergh Field with that trophy.
Late to the party out there.
I'm so glad to see you out there on the final set. This is bad. Must have been exciting.
The ones I got last
Team,
night.
though.
That's a good one.
Soccer's champions. And Scotty, how about that celebration for Coach John Quintera? You know, I remember just how emotional he was as a guy who, you know, Torrey Pines baseball or Texas Tech assistant coach, but to actually be in charge of something and have a championship coming. How excited were you to let the big fella eat in that way?
Oh, I mean, it was amazing. It added to my joy for sure, just seeing how emotional and happy he was, because obviously we're all going crazy, but then to like look over and just see someone kind of like with the face of like, oh, I can't believe this happened. I'm tears of happiness kind of starting to roll down. It made it even more special for sure.
You know, Kraig, I remember for some reasons that I won't get into, but I remember the celebration of that night very well. Very well. And going to a nightclub that night and having that team together and being in the limo and having Black and Yellow playing over and over, which is kind of our theme, that all we do is win, 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 no matter what, being in that as well. Was that a moment where you started to feel like, I mean, you know, that first year we go out, we win, whatever, but that second year, like you said, winning on the road, almost kind of feels like you're starting to build the planks toward the legacy that would be eventually there.
Yeah, you know, they're super special memories, I think, for all of us, you know, and I think we all played prior, you know, collegiately and in club and high school, and I'm sure we all have very fond memories of that, but these were special times. You know, we were trailblazing this organization a little bit, and we all knew each other and were friends on and off the field for long spells into Fusion and through colleges and other relationships. And so it was special. It was special to do it with your good friends. It was special to do it the way that we were doing it, winning and winning so confidently. And, you know, those will be, you know, the glory days even when we look back on all this, you know, down the road. It's really, really special times. And the team dynamic has changed right now. It's a little bit different, but, you know, it's equally as special. But this was a good one for the organization.
So the Sockers had one more opportunity to pick up another piece of silverware before the end of that year, and that was the U.S. Open Cup Championship. The PASL season was over. The U.S. Open Cup was not, and 1 week later, the Sockers would host Cincinnati at home. Brian, just speaking almost generically, would you like to see, now that we're in a much firmer spot where the indoor game is so much more established, where you have an MASL2, would you like to see the U.S. Open Cup come back for indoor?
The U.S. Open Cup for me was like icing on the cake. It was a bonus that you got to play in if you were successful. Everybody wanted a piece of it. The Lamar Hunt Open Cup is amazing for the stories of amateur teams coming through the ranks. And like this year's a good example. I think Sac Republic is in the quarter or the semifinals versus Kansas City, and I have friends on the team, and I'm watching it closely because it's cool. Like it's a cool story. But there's stories of like U18 teams beating the Sounders or the Galaxy in the past, and that can happen now for indoor. We had a good run in the Open Cup before they ended it, and I always look back on those games as sometimes the games meant double, right? You were on the road, and you're playing against somebody, and it happened to be a draw where it's an Open Cup, and you're like, wait a second, we have to play the Open Cup game in their home arena? Like, we're the higher seed. It's a disadvantage. But you just, you know, you put your boots on and you go to work. And so I wish it was still around for sure, but maybe something we can petition for.
Yeah, let's talk to Phil. Let's let's see if we can get that going. And it was a perfect capper to the Sockers' second season back to be able to be at home, be at the Del Mar Arena, and lift a cup, which they did, humbling Jeff Hughes and the Cincinnati Kings 13-6. The highlights of which you'll see right now.
Yep, yeah, it was one of the first plays of the game. give it a whirl and see what happens, and it hit the top bar and went in. So it's a lucky shot.
Kind of picked me out on the side there, and everyone backed off, and he kind of gave me the right. He knew I would go left, so I just took it and went right by him, and luckily I was able to slot that goal away.
Yep, feeling confident. I figure might as well give it a shot, see what happens. Hit the back of the net, pleased.
Wonder made a good look. He looked like he was going to go to Kraig, slid it over to me. Kind of saw where the goalkeeper was trying to get big, kind of waited. He showed me his little opportunity, just put it there.
Yeah, it was a great opportunity. I got the ball basically at midfield, and I saw the defender coming on my back, and I just turned him real quick. Took a couple of touches, and then I did what I do best. I just hit the ball, went back post, and the goal.
Nick, I got the ball. The ball was played into Nick, and he basically, usually when he gets the ball, I like to run off of him. But this time I kind of hung back, and he laid it back to me, and I made a turn and just hit it back door. So it's a little bit different. Usually I run off of him, like with my going to goal. And this kind of played it back, and I just turned and hit the shot.
Yeah, I popped it up with my right foot and hit it with my left foot, and it kind of bounced unorthodox and went in the back post.
Well, I saw Majel win the ball, and he played Kraiger, and Kraiger took it off his chest, and I saw an opportunity, basically overlap run, and I called for it. He laid me up on a tee, and I just volleyed the ball, and it went in.
It was a nice ball dished out. We scored a few in the championship like that. Pretty much, guy came out, pressured me. He was shielded. The goalie was shielded a little bit and tucked it back post.
It's funny when you score, Nick had a shot, he missed, the ball bounced, went to my right side, I just had to shot low. The ball went between the legs of the player and the goalkeeper, I believe so.
What a time for the San Diego Sockers, 13-6 winners over Cincinnati that night. And, Scotty, when I just look back at these highlights and I see the excitement of this time, what an incredible time for the Sockers, just starting to recapture the imagination of San Diego, but really grabbing the respect of the international indoor soccer community. You're beating the best teams in Mexico. Cincinnati was supposed to be the team that was your rival. You spank them on your home floor, starting to get 3,500, 3,000 fans, even at the Del Mar Arena. What an exciting time to be a San Diego Soccer.
Oh, yeah, it was very special. I mean, for me, for probably Kraig, Medina, all of us that grew up here in San Diego especially, it was like a dream come true. And then just to kind of keep winning, I think helped, especially in San Diego, keeping the fans coming out and playing the brand of soccer that we did, scoring a lot of goals. But, yeah, I mean, it was amazing. Like, I look back on that time now, especially in the very first years. And, I mean, college was fun, but it might be hard to say that it was any more fun than when we were playing on the Soccers during this time.
I would reiterate that in terms of, like, I got here late. I joined the party late, but when I got here, the guys were like, it was like a family of 20 brothers, and the coach / general manager is like an older brother. Like, he's not dad, right? Phil was like a brother in the system. So it was like, it was a little bit weird when I first got in. I'm like, he's the coach, and he's like also partying like after we win. And like, that was, for me, was like, this is fun. Like, that's why everybody was like, no, what we do here is we win games and we win championships, and then after we win, we go out and we enjoy ourselves. And it was like, oh, okay. And I watched it. Like, and then when I first was like, oh, this is different than college, different than like what I had been experiencing. But the group was, what it felt like when I first got here was everybody's from San Diego. Everybody knew each other. They all had respect for each other. They all come from this certain pedigree that doesn't exist very many places, maybe Florida and Texas. And they were serious about this game, and it was just fun for me to like try to like open the door and join the team. And luckily, it kind of worked out for me. But it was immediately like different pedigree, and you can see it in the results, right? Everybody here, from Diego to Swift, the veterans, Paul coming back, Susie, everybody was serious about just winning and performing.
You know, and Anthony, just kind of to put a button on that, to be a part of a club that has that initial cohesion of everybody is San Diego for the most part. Everybody has played with one another. You know, we see 10 years down the road very different soccer's clubs come together with guys who, you know, with 14 Mexicans on the team. But these days it was kind of like San Diego versus Mexico in so many ways in terms of the players that would eventually become your rivals. You at that time were able to knock them down with this group of local dudes.
Yeah, and I think that's what made that team in that period of time, or that legacy for the Soccers during that time period so special, is because we knew we had a lot of talent. We had a great mix of young guys that were super talented, you know, coming up into the game. We had a group of a few veterans that have been around, and it was just a very unique combination of all that, you know, local guys, veterans, up-and-coming stars, and very talented soccer players, and just putting it all together with that competitive nature. And it just breeded just a successful environment. And you know, you saw it in the results, and you saw it in the way we played, and I think it was just a special time. And what's great is that they've been able to, the generation that, like, Kraig's still playing a few of the guys, but they've been able to carry that tradition on, you know, as we did. You know, we had that obligation to kind of, you know, carry the tradition and, you know, brand of winning soccer on, and just to see that transition from the previous generation to our little, you know, tenure, and then to the current generation is really special. But yeah, it was just I think a great period where, you know, we had a good group of guys that played at a high level, and just got results and had fun doing it, and that's what made it special.
Well, it's special for me to relive all these memories with these gentlemen with whom we have forged a lifetime of memories, and there is no question about it. 2010-11, a year that the Sockers went 14-2, captured 2 more championships, the PASL-Pro North American Championship, the U.S. Open Cup Championship, and set the stage for what the following year would be the first perfect season in the history of the San Diego Sockers franchise. I want to say a special thanks to several people who made this broadcast possible. And first, I want to go into the Wayback Machine, and I want to say a special thanks to Dan McClellan, who was my cohort back in 2010-11, was there filming several of the clips, including what we saw from the North American Championships in Cincinnati. Dan was there for our celebration in Cincinnati, and we absolutely remember his time helping contribute to the San Diego Sockers. Dave Evenson, whose Evo Streams Productions created all of these clips that you saw in this particular broadcast of the championships. We thank Dave Evenson, who stayed with us for the next couple of years as our video coordinator. And of course, back here in present time, in 2022, we say a very special thanks to Jerry Jimenez, who is our producer, our director, our man behind the scenes, who is making this broadcast possible for you to watch today. So thanks to all of these people who have made this broadcast possible for you to enjoy. But Kraig Chiles, Brian Farber, Anthony Medina, Scotty Martin, all of you are part of the legacy of this franchise. And you know that. I don't have to tell you that, but you're part of what makes this great. And I think it's just so special to know that here we are, 2022-23, going into a season, and will it be your last season? Will it be your next to last season or whatever? I give you next to last. I give you next to last.
You gotta have a bad year before I get
Right? We're here in this situation now where indoor soccer is strong and where it is multinational and multicultural, and it is so much of a part of what we're doing. But this was still the early days. These were the days where the Sockers were creating a legacy for themselves, where, quite honestly, if you didn't do this, we wouldn't be here right now. There probably wouldn't be a Calafino, and there probably wouldn't be, us sitting here talking. So thank you so much for your contributions on the field, and thank you so much here in 2022 for taking a little time to remember it. We've still got 2 more years to get through as well.
I think we should do it every decade, and get the crew back together. Yeah, I feel like I'm still too young to be doing this, but in 10 years and 15 years, I'm going to be enjoying some of those Road Trip Scotty videos on YouTube.
We could bring out some more stuff because it's far enough in the past.
Yeah, I've left out all of my personal stories from this particular year of the San Diego Sockers, and I'm really happy because the last video included a bunch of them, and probably the next one will, so happy to stay out of that for this one. But for Kraig and Brian and Anthony and Scotty, I'm Kraig Elsten. Thank you so much for tuning in. The championships, 2010-2011. We'll be back in 2 weeks to check out the perfect season, the 3-trophy season of 2011-2012. Stay tuned for that right here on the San Diego Sockers channel.